I practice primarily in the area of intellectual property, which, broadly speaking, is patents, copyright, trademarks. But I would say that's where I started my practice, but it has evolved from there, and so I deal really with all issues that touch tangentially on intellectual property, whether it be trade secrets, advertising, regulatory matters, and I do both litigation and solicitor side work. Increasingly, clients aren't super keen to rush into litigation, understandably, and so a lot of the work that we do is providing advice on matters related to intellectual property, or a lot of what I do is to provide advice on matters related to intellectual property. So that's what I do, and how I came to do it is probably like most people, it's a little bit serendipity. I have a technical background, so that's where I started in IP, probably because of my engineering background. But how I ended up still being in IP is really as a result of the subject matter engaging me. I find that it's diverse. I find that the clients have interesting issues. I like working with the people in the area. I work with a fabulous team. And so how I came to do it is really, one little baby step forward because of my technical background. And then from there, curiosity and opportunity to explore issues related to IP. Teamwork on many levels, I think, is what you have to think about. I always consider myself to be a team with my clients. I always consider myself to be a team with my colleagues. And I think in the context of litigation, or where you're working against a party or as a party opposite, I think you also have to consider yourself, to a certain extent, to be teams with opposing counsel or the party opposite. And you can think of a situation if you're in negotiations, if you don't consider yourself to be a team with the other side, somehow trying to achieve a common objective, likelihood of success is pretty low. So I think that there are always many teams at play, but if one were to think about the common thread on what makes any of those teams effective, it is, I think, trust, respect, effectiveness. Of course, your team has to actually achieve the goals that it sets out to achieve. There has to be a level of mentorship, learning, and teaching between the members of the team. And there has to be a real level of engagement, I think, with the team members. Everybody needs to be feeling like they're contributing, actually contributing, and being recognized for the work that they do. Maybe a bit of a chicken and egg situation going on, but when you have that, I think you are able to achieve much better results. So an effective team to me is one that works really seamlessly together and that really feeds off of each other, and really a tremendous amount of, I think, respect and trust. Otherwise, ultimately, that team will break down. One of the first things you need to do is to listen to the clients. You actually have to hear what they're saying, and you need to understand the challenges that they face, and you need to react in a meaningful way to the challenges that they are facing. If you don't, then you will ultimately become out of touch with their reality. And if you're trying to provide a service that fits within their business model, that makes sense for them from a business perspective, you need to know the challenges that they face. You need to understand the business restrictions that they have, and you need to adapt the services that you provide to fit within that model. And I think that's the kind of cooperation, that's the kind of relationship you need to have with your clients. Since I was a kid, I've always been more of a lateral thinker. I've always seen issues or opportunities or problems in a slightly different way from what others may. And that, I think, has allowed me to challenge the conventional approach, or to see an opportunity for a path forward, or see an opportunity for a settlement or common ground that wouldn't otherwise necessarily appear obvious. And so I think what I bring is a certain amount of humanity to it, a certain amount of reasonableness to it, and a dedication to trying to actually solve the problem from a practical business perspective, to give the client a quick, efficient, cost-effective solution to the problem, and so that they can get on with the business that they're involved in rather than the business of funding me. When I was a young lawyer, I must have been maybe in my first year or so of practice, I did a pro bono case for a client who was an author. She had written a book, and unfortunately there was a dispute that arose between herself and the editor and publisher over how the book was put together, the cover, the publication, the printing, etc. And we weren't, unfortunately, able to resolve it amicably, and it did go to litigation. And so I was quite excited about this from a young litigator perspective, and we took it to court and litigated it. And at the end, we were successful, and I was really chuffed, and I thought it was great. And as we walked out of the courtroom, my client burst into tears. I mean, full-on tears. And I stood dumbfounded in front of my client, not really sure what to do. And so after some discussion and talking, what I learned was that those tears were tears of relief. Those tears were tears of gratitude. Those tears were tears of appreciation for having had the opportunity to have her case heard. I mean, it helped, I think, that we were successful, but that has stayed with me forever.